It's really for us catching up and then becoming more matured in our practices on how we onboard new respondents, how we companies coming in. There's the traditional companies doing a better job on building proprietary technology to stop. There's so many different pieces that we need to tighten up and actually use the different tools that's out there and then doing a better job.
Welcome to the Collaborative Canvas. I'm your host, Ankesh, Saxena, and today we are diving deep into the state of online data collection, challenges, and the path forward. The landscape of online research is evolving rapidly, with new challenges like survey fraud, AI driven disruption, and the respondent disengagement shaking up the industry. But what's the way forward? How can we ensure better data quality, improved participation, and the frictionless research experience? To break it all down, I am thrilled to welcome Oscar Carlsson, the founder of Milo Advisory. Today, we'll discuss the biggest challenge in online data collection, how AI and automation are reshaping the respondent behavior, the hidden friction in survey taking, and how to fix them, and the future of data collection, what's next. So let's straight jump into this. Welcome, Oscar.
Thank you very much, Ankesh. Very nice to be here.
Thank you so much for making some time out for this conversation. We wanted to really understand where everything in the shape of AI and online data collection stands, and who would better answer my questions than you. So, my first question to you as to how is as in what are biggest challenges in the online data collection today, and how they have evolved. We'll start with this, and then we'll go on to the rest of them.
Yeah, of course. So very, very broad question, but I think the biggest challenge is really about trust, really trust from our customers to the industry, because think that has been shaken a bit in the last couple of years, especially around our challenges within the industry with data quality and fraud. Hopefully, not too much of that has come out to end customers and end buyers because it's been something that we've been managing within the ecosystem. But definitely the trust around the data that we deliver to our clients and the challenges to validate that it's actually a real person and the right people that we're interviewing. And I think also tied to that is on the other side, the trust from our respondents and the entire respondent experience, where I think we're facing massive challenges with retention and actually getting the real consumers to provide really valuable and engaged responses to us.
And I think somewhere down the line, even when the evaluation of the technology being there, we thought it would be easier to reach out to larger organization, as what we generally talk about with research organization, that online research has made the collection of the data easier. But that's not the case anymore, because we see a lot of fraudulent activity being happening. We see a lot of bots being coming onto the marketplaces, and even when we got ample amount of supply, these have become a serious issues in the survey fraud. Do you think there are any solutions that can be implemented, or are there any solutions which can be implemented?
I think that there are solutions. I think really what we've been facing in the industry, especially the online part and the programmatic part of the industry has been growing so fast over the last 10 years or so. And it's really for us catching up and then becoming more matured in our practices on how we onboard new respondents, how we validate them, how we decide which ones to send to which surveys and so on. And in sort of that journey that we're going through, there's been so easy to go in and find vulnerabilities and attack us. And I think we're doing a better job as an industry to find some of these vulnerabilities. It's less ghost completes now, for example, but now we have maybe more advanced AI type fraud that's coming in, but there are solutions out there. I think there are a couple of new companies coming in. There's the traditional companies doing a better job on building proprietary technology to stop this. But I think the biggest challenge is really are customers willing to pay for that additional technology, that additional verification that's out there? Because there are solutions, but still there's a big cost pressure on all the supply, which really makes it hard for everyone to really roll the solution out over the entire breadth of their supply.
And Oscar, you mentioned about the respondent being engaged into this whole process. There's still a very, there's certain key frictions in the survey taking process that actually affect the respondent experience overall. I mean, we have seen there are tons of questions being asked to just to identify them, and that's what already panel companies have done it. So, what are other, key friction areas you think that the survey taking process is affecting the overall engagement of the respondent?
I think there's primarily two or three things in that. I think it's the overall conversion, so getting an offer to take a survey to actually go in and finish that survey. It is quite seldom you actually go in and finish the survey that you initially thought that you were going to complete. Because there's low conversion on each and every survey, you get routed to other surveys, and that's a horrible experience when you bounce in between these different surveys, right? It's the trust component as well in between us and the ecosystem where we re-ask the same question multiple times. Are you male, female? What's your age? And so on. That goes through various panels, routers, and also customers are re-asking the same questions. And I think that really boils down to a really horrible user experience for the respondent. It's not personalized at all. And even in the same survey, we're asking questions where we most likely can derive the answer to the next question from what you responded earlier, but we're not doing that. We're re-asking questions. So it's poor survey design and not really making use of technology that's out there. So we're exhausting the respondents that's going through the survey experience. So it's a big risk of us churning those few respondents to actually go through the entire experience and go to eventual incentive payout in the end.
You raise a very valid point. I mean, in fact, the fact is that when the question is being designed, a researcher would not know what a company can actually do in terms of the data collection agency, whether it is any panel company or not, because we have this whole chain of researcher to an agency down the line that everybody gets into this mode of getting business from the research agency and passing on to the next, more like a brokering firm. You get in the main project and then you drill down to the lowest possible cost. When a researcher designed this whole questionnaire, they keep an idea of having a respondent persona altogether, and they work according to that. Now, since we already know that that persona is already being there into the system, we know whom to target. We still don't do that, and that is where a whole lot of time we are seeing the same respondent getting bored during the process because he's answering same questions again and again. Do you think that and pretty off the record question, because I see a lot of farming click farms have been being there. People know exactly how an answer can be done, even if there are too many questions, because the respondents are not taking those questions, so they still have to get it done, and they're using AI. So is it like good or bad, and what can be done to avoid these uh, major quality issues and create a hack which does not allow them to do that?
I think it's bad with click farms. If that's the question right now, that's a really worrying path that we're going down, and I think really we should be able to do a better job at understanding which respondents are loyal, who's been taking surveys for years in some cases, and then we have these really loyal, great respondents that are taking surveys in the ecosystem, providing really good, engaged answers. And I think we need to do a better job at filtering out and maybe rewarding those that are actually doing a good job providing consistent answers, engaged answers, allow them sort of maybe faster track where we make sure that we trust the responses throughout the value chain. We send them off to customers so they don't have to re-ask these questions. And then, of course, that won't be enough to fill all the surveys. So we need to have fresh respondents coming through as well. Everyone is doing a great job in recruiting fresh respondents, but we're a bit unsure if these are actually real people, and that's where you mix in some risk of getting the bots and the click farms and so on, when you have less history and less contextual data on these people, right? But we should try to minimize that and apply the survey and controls that we can do. We have various different means of doing more efficient KYC process. We have A lot of great vendors out there doing good checks to understand if this is real humans or not, and also doing checks on open ends and so on, both in real time but also after data processing. And we need to have a strong feedback loop to make sure that we get that information back to the supplier as well if something is found maybe further up the value chain closer to the customer, so they know that they should stop working with a certain recruitment vendor that's sending in bad traffic, right? So there's so many different pieces that we need to tighten up and actually use the different tools that's out there, and then doing a better job of understanding, and then using AI as well to really understand the responses more in real time, so we can block them from being part of the data that we eventually show to our customers.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good point because when I see overall respondent journey, we see a lot of gray areas there. Within the questionnaire, there are certain questions, and then somebody is also creating those screener questions, and then down the line there are like multiple screener questions. Now, considering we got AI on the board, we got better technologies on the board. I think that educational element is still missing. So even if say within the value chain, somebody at the lower end who's providing the sample can actually tell them that these are already available to us, so please do not implement and apply those questionnaires accordingly. We can minimize the impact. I still remember there are questionnaires which are 120-minute long. Are there this serious not concerns? I mean, why would a respondent take a 120-minute survey, and why do even clients think that they can be easily done on a online platform? I don't think so that's easy.
I hope they are going away. I see. I was recently on moderating a panel at SampleCon, which was interesting, right? And on that panel, we had a discussion around more and more of the control is moving towards suppliers, because there's big suppliers out there really being able to control where their traffic is being sent. And if they have a really bad survey experience with someone low conversion rates, really long surveys, matrix questions, and all that, they would rather direct to something that the respondent actually enjoys and converts, because that's better payback for them, really. So we're seeing a shift of power and really market dynamics driving traffic away from these really long, horrible surveys, and hopefully that's eventually forcing a change with those buyers that are still running those surveys. We see the new generation of buyers and technology companies that's doing market research. They have shorter surveys, more to the point, in some cases, one question surveys, but they do it more frequent, right? Because with technology today, you can easily post one question to respondent. You have a lot of pound profile already. It's a verified respondents. They've been taking surveys for years, and you can really trust that we know that this is a female 25 years old in the UK taking the survey, and you can send that off and just ask that really money question that you're looking to. And I think a lot of research today are greedy in terms of just adding more and more questions to it, and they're not using all of the data in the end. They're
Exactly.
really focusing on just a subset of the survey, which is the most important, and that's the subset that you should be focusing on and doing in your research, because then you get the highest quality.
So do you think that those traditional way of screening criteria is being implemented, and the way panel profiles being done, is it really outdated, and are these leading to inefficiencies?
It's really outdated. I think in a lot of cases it's still needed because there's inconsistent answers and so on from the targeting to actually what they answer in the survey. So we need to do a better job in filtering out those responses that we truly trust, and then having a bigger trust between supplier and buyer to share that data and actually use that data for their and on segmentation, so they don't have to re-ask these questions.
Makes sense. And how does the role of an incentive play in motivating or demotivating participation? Because we also see that the response rate tends to be lower in certain cases, unless or until, and specifically talking about those studies which are a bit longer than usual.
Yeah, I think really when we have to pay incentives to panelists, we have slightly failed in my mind. I think the best quality you have when you give the respondent some other motivation that's actually a topic that's really relevant to them, that it's a fun and engaging experience. You see charity panels as well, where they contribute and answer surveys and money go to charity, and you have a lot less fraud on those because the main driver is not the incentive value, right? So I think there's other things that they need to consider than just sort of the cash payout. I think also when you tie it into other motivation factors, like it could be some additional life in the game that you're playing, or it could be other things that's really valuable to you, but can really be converted to cash. I think you really drive a higher engagement from the respondents, and you're less open to fraud. So I really look for those types of partners that have those slightly alternative motivation factors to really drive the highest goal.
And since we're talking about the participation overall, we see a lot of behavioral patterns across social media. There's definitely a change in the way people used to buy things. There's a digital behavior impact as well. So, does this rise of an AI or automating is really impacting the survey participation again?
Yeah, I think the change of behavior there. I think it's similar to what happened when the iPhone launched. I think suddenly there was a higher expectation of any interface that you would interact with, that it should be intuitive and slick and fast like the iPhone was. I think similarly now with new interfaces, they are a bit more predictive. They're not sort of re-asking the same questions again. So I think even in our experience in asking questions to respondents, we need to be smarter in the follow-up questions that we ask. I think great example is conversational AI that's coming now, and doing call interviews at scale, which are actually intelligent, listening to the response, asking a follow-up questions, maybe not asking a question if you already can derive it from the questions that you already asked. And I think it will be sort of people will have less patience with just re-answering those questions or different versions of the same questions again, and they expect to be treated with a more personalized experience. And also things like also from the panel last week is interesting. We had a discussion around dynamic surveying, so really adapting how you ask the question depending on who you are. If you're a Gen Z, or if you're like me, a 40 plus, uh, you have a different language. But really, it's the core meaning of you, what you want from the question. And if you ask the question the same way, um, from me as for a teenager, for example, you'll probably get completely different responses, because it's not the natural way of us speaking to that demographic. But if you personalize that a bit more, you can probably get more extensive data and responses from the respondent.
And I think that's one of the most promising strategies that anybody can implement. But when it comes to not just strategies and technologies, what, as per you, can be most promising when implementing to improve survey conversion rate? Because we spoke about the participation rate, but that can only happen, if we see that. In fact, the survey conversion rates will only happen when there is a good participation. So, what are other promising strategies that you would recommend or advise people to work on?
I think really what's possible now with Gen AI is really more understanding the meaning of targeting, pound profiling that you're having, the pound profiling experience, also have that a bit more sort of engaged, and then really asking more engaging questions so you can derive data from that, right? You can ask a respondent 10 questions, but still you can probably fill out one of these standard pound profiles that we have on our regular panels today, right? So there's ways of mapping data and then deriving data from less questions than we ask today, and then really do a good job in mapping what is the desired need from the customer in terms of the offer that they bring out, and then the targeting criteria to the actual data you have on file, and use AI to find the correlations there to really drive up conversion rates. So I think there's a lot we can do there, and not the exact same version of that question, right? Which is yeah, it doesn't have to be the exact wording that the customers come with.
I think that's a key area to look into it, because a lot of time we don't consider uh, I would say respondent as human. We still think that bots can answer those questions much better than anybody else, which is why this all happens. But thank you so much, Oscar. I mean, I think this is the most insightful conversation I had evolving around the landscape of online data collection, and there are a lot of things that we can probably talk about. I mean, it is just not the end of the conversation. There's so many things which are happening right now. There are a lot of interactions which are happening right now. A lot many companies have come up with different set of technologies to eradicate what we say as a better conversion rates needs to be, a better participation rates needs to happen on those surveys. So we understood, and we take these key takeaways from this conversation, that the biggest friction in the survey participation and how they impact the data quality needs to be addressed properly. Even if we are having a value chain of many people within the one survey execution, from clients to an agency, we really need to focus on how we can educate each other when it comes to understanding what exactly consumer wants. The third thing which Oscar rightly mentioned is and this is something that everybody talks about, I still believe we don't do that. It is about how much we are making the questionnaire more personalized. Whether it is apt for a Gen Z or a millennial, we don't know. We just shoot it out. So we really need to work things out there. And the fourth is, how AI and automations are, even when people see them as a challenge, it sometimes becomes an opportunity for the industry. So we really need to understand how that works. We talked about what is the path forward, then, and what panel providers or research firms or suppliers can do to drive change is all we discussed here. As the industry continue to evolve, innovate, collaborate, and a focus on respondent experience becomes the key to unlocking better insights. We really need to hold our hands together and talk to each other and find out a way possible. Just that understanding from one perspective doesn't work that way, and which is why I called upon Oscar to talk about where the state is actually heading and what can be done. So it actually gives us a lot of avenues to talk about new technologies and new innovations altogether. And if you found this episode more valuable, then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, because more episodes on these conversations would be aired on YouTube and Spotify. And of course, I love to hear your thoughts. So, whatever you see as the biggest challenge in the online data collection, please just drop a comment and I will ensure that I get more and more experts onto this portal to answer those questions for you. Until next time, this is Ankesh Saxena signing off from the Collaborative Canvas. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Oscar.
Thank you.